former wide receiver in the NFL, long-timer, Ed McCaffrey. Ed McCaffrey's joining us for the show. Ed, I know you had your radio show this morning. How'd that go, and what's your plans for the rest of the time?
Oh, it went really well, and thank you for having me on this show. It's a little intimidating.
Really?
Syracuse. You guys
Really?
have like some of the most famous sports broadcasters and sports media personalities on the planet, so I feel like I'm sitting among greatness. You guys are the future.
Well, we're now your rival. Stanford, Syracuse,
Right.
ACC, a
That's
rivalry
right.
as old as it gets.
It is true. It is true. I don't know how long they're going to stay in the ACC. Maybe for a long time. But that's quite the trip to go 3,000 miles away to play, especially, not if you're football, but if you're baseball or basketball or girls volleyball and you got to stay a whole week and miss class. You guys would know better than I would, but it seems like it would be tough to continue that kind of a trend. I don't know. I think it's still new, NIL, the realignment of all the different conferences. We'll see if it sticks for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
I know you were talking to me earlier about you don't go to the Super Bowls, you're not playing in, your kids aren't playing in, but you did go to one. So tell me about that one and why you went.
Yeah, I've only been to one Super Bowl that I didn't play in or that my kids didn't play in, and that was the Super Bowl out in Pasadena, where Dallas beat the Buffalo Bills. And the only reason we went is my wife Lisa wanted to see Michael Jackson perform at halftime. That's literally the only reason we went. Because if you're not in the game, guys, it's tough to watch somebody else competing for the prize that you wanted, right? In the beginning of the year, every team's goal, every team in the NFL, is to win the Super Bowl. It's not to get to the Super Bowl. It's not to get to and lose the Super Bowl. It's to win the Super Bowl. So even though this is the greatest sport in the world, in my opinion, and has the greatest athletes in the world, and is the best live entertainment that you could possibly watch, I don't want to watch it unless one of my kids is in it or I'm in it. And it's just too hard. I can't go to this game. I can't do it. And I have the utmost respect for the Chiefs and for the Eagles. And I know some of the coaches and players on their team. And I root for my friends, right? Just like we all do. Like the players that I know that are friends with my kids, the coaches that coached me or that I know, I root for them to have success. But I can't go to the game. It's too painful. I have PTSD from last year. I was at that Super Bowl. I thought the 49ers should have won it. They didn't. It was heartbreaking. I want more for my kids than I ever wanted for myself. And it feels like someone literally reached their hand into my chest and pulled my heart out. That's how painful this is. You don't know how many opportunities you get, and that's why this game's going to be so exciting. One team will lose, one team will win, and like Ricky Bobby says, right, if you ain't first, you're last.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what it feels like in the NFL. All these guys you see walking around here in Radio Row, they can't wait for this game to be over. You know why? Because now it's next year.
Yep.
Now it's 0-0. Now we have hope again. There's no hope left if you're out of it this year, but in a week, it starts over.
So if you did want to go, I mean, you're a 3-time Super Bowl champion, kids playing in the games. Do you get free tickets, or are you paying the same amount that everyone else would pay?
Oh, I pay full price for tickets if I go. Yeah, the players get the option to buy tickets, and every team's different. But the players typically get the option to buy tickets at cost, which is usually a couple $1,000. And then when you resell them, it's several thousand if you try to buy them on one of the ticket brokers. But I'm not going either way. But most players have to buy extra for their family members, especially like the young guys. Like my first Super Bowl, I gave away every single ticket. And I think I bought 25 of them to give to all my family and relatives. And then as the years went by, I bought less for immediate family and friends, and then everyone else had the option to buy them if they wanted to, and they didn't typically because they were several $1,000s a piece. It's very corporate, the Super Bowl, right? You don't. It's not like a championship game. If you play at home, you dominate your stadium. Your fan base is loud. In a Super Bowl, it's probably 30% fans for each team, and the rest is totally corporate. And they really don't care who wins. They really don't. They're there for the fun and the entertainment, and they have the money to buy the tickets.
Can you tell us what the big differences are for you being in a game, playing in a game versus your kids doing it?
Yes, I have no control when my kids play. You have to surrender. I have had to surrender. As a player, you feel like you're in control of your own destiny. As a receiver, I can get open, I can block, I can catch passes. Physically, I'm confident. I just have to beat the guy in front of me, but it's up to me to compete against my opponent. When my sons are playing, I'm in the stands. I'm eating the food in the stadium or the suite, and I have no control over anything. I'm not at their practices. I'm not on the game. I'm not on the field. So as a dad, hopefully my kids know I love them and I support them, and win, lose, or draw, I'm here for them, and I want the best for them. But I'm not the coach, and I can't do anything about what happens on the field.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different role. I used to get really anxious about it because you want so badly for them to succeed. But over the years, I've learned I'm also a husband and a father to other kids. And if I'm anxious in the stands and going crazy or too nervous, I'm not helping anybody. I'm certainly not helping my son play better.
Yep.
And then I'm just annoying to be around. So there was a point where my wife's like, I don't even want to sit next. This was like 10, 12 years ago. I don't even want to sit next to you at the games. You're stressing me out. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Like, I'm here for you too. I'm not just here for whichever one of my kids happens to be playing. So those are that's one of the lessons you learn as a parent.
Yep.
That you're not helping anybody by being stressed out, and your negative energy, I think, infects everybody around you. So I try to be positive, hope for the best, but no matter what happens, I'm here for them.
When did you find yourself surrendering? Oh, yeah, we got way too many heads at this table. People have been telling us.
Got to keep your head on a swivel. I got
Hey.
you.
When did you find yourself surrendering to the fact that you had no control about what your kids were doing on the field at that given point? Because that's got to be difficult, right? Somebody who is in that situation, it was like, oh, I see it happening before they're even processing it on the field.
That's a great question. And I would say when they were really little, I was kind of fine. It's youth league. I would help coach them. But they're little kids, and they're having fun, and they just started playing sports, and it was great. I think when they got to high school, there was about a year or two in there where, in hindsight, I think I was too intense as a fan. I tried not to let them feel that, but just sitting up in the stands next to Lisa, she could tell, and she pointed it out, and I realized you're absolutely right. Look, I have to just be a dad. And when I coached them as kids, sometimes you watch the game like a coach would, and you're thinking, I would have called this player, I would have called that player, they could have used this technique or that technique. I would have, and you get too caught up into it, and you have to know when to take your parent cap off and your coach cap off, right? So like if you coach them in practice, it's hard for a kid whose parent coaches them, because now they're hearing about it in the car ride home. They're hearing about it at lunch. They might hear about it at the dinner table. Most kids don't have to deal with that, right? Some parents don't know anything about the sport. That's one of the reasons my kids loved lacrosse. They're like, you never played, you don't know anything about it, I'm going to play lacrosse, you can't give me any feedback. I know more about this sport than you do. And I'm like, when I found that out, I'm like, wow, it kind of hurt a little bit, but I realized maybe I'm giving too much information. So what I started to do was I surrendered. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Win, lose, or draw, it's a learning experience. They're doing the best that they can. They're going to know that I'm proud of them and love them no matter what. I'm going to feel better about it because I'm not going to be stressed out. My wife, Lisa, feels better about it because I'm more pleasant to be around. And it made me happier, but I think it made them happier as well.
You've had a couple runs at the Super Bowl, and 3 of them were successful. What's a core memory from each of them? Because there's got to be these distinct ones that really just stick out.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking that. Yeah, Super Bowl 29 was the first Super Bowl championship I got to be a part of. It was with the San Francisco 49ers. I was only on the team for 7 months, and I got to win a Super Bowl. I was backing up Jerry Rice, the most accomplished receiver of all time. Steve Young was our quarterback. The thing I cherish the most about that experience is the lifelong friendships that I made in such a short amount of time. They were really high-quality football players and high-quality people, and they really welcomed me to the team. But I had to make the team. I was cut by the New York Giants and then decided that I wanted to play for a team that had a chance to win a Super Bowl. So I bet
You and Saquon.
I bet on myself. Yeah, and Saquon was a little different position, but I was betting on myself. I just got cut, and I wanted to bet on myself, and I had to compete against 14 receivers to make a team that kept 4 receivers. And I'm so glad I did because I made the team. And one of my goals was to be on a team that won a Super Bowl championship. And I got to have that experience thanks to great coaching and great teammates. But it also led to me signing with the Denver Broncos because Mike Shanahan was our offensive coordinator. He noticed the type of effort I was putting forth in practice. He saw something in me and offered me a job in Denver, where we went on to win 2 more Super Bowls. Super Bowl 32 is my favorite, even though they're all great. It's like
I was going to ask if you had a favorite, but I mean, it's
like
just winning a Super Bowl.
It's like asking which one's your favorite kid, right? So when I'm in Levi's,
everyone secretly has a favorite kid, but they can't say it.
Lisa rates them per day.
Okay.
So she'll have a list. Who's my favorite
That's
kid
awesome.
today? And usually it's whoever called her last. That's my favorite kid.
Do the kids know the rankings? Like, at the end of the day, does she send a text to the family group chat saying, by the way, Christian, you're number one today?
She has done that. Yeah, not every day, but she has said so-and-so's my favorite, like in our family text chain. Or, and it's usually whoever was nice or whoever called her. But she'll do it daily. I don't rate the kids. I don't rate the Super Bowls. But I guess if I'm being honest, like if I'm in Levi Stadium, then 49ers Super Bowl is my favorite. But for real, my favorite was the Denver Broncos Super Bowl 32 because it was the first Super Bowl championship the Denver Broncos had ever won in the history of the organization. I was a starter. I played on that team. I got to play with John Elway. I was in the back of the victory formation at the end of the game when John Elway took the knee to end the game, and I got to be the first one to see him turn around. He was laughing, he was crying, he was celebrating. He had worked his whole life for that moment. And so I wasn't just happy for myself, I was so happy for him and the fan base of the Denver Broncos. They had witnessed so many losses, and finally, after years and years, and when you talk to the families, you realize, like, people had been going to these games with their mom or dad or grandpa, and some of them weren't alive anymore, and they went to games for 20 years, and then finally, they're talking about, I wish they would have been here, but, I went to the gravestone and left something. And, like, there's a family attachment, an emotional attachment with fan bases and their team. And it was such an emotional experience. I'll never forget it. That last play where John took the knee is frozen in time for me. I remember it. I think about it almost every day, just being part of that experience. And people are so cool to me in Denver. Like, go to the grocery store, we're high-fiving and talking about Super Bowl 32. Go to mail a letter. Like, everywhere in town, everybody who is a Denver Broncos fans remembers that Super Bowl.
Does that ever get a little much, or do you enjoy it still?
I love it. Yeah, it never gets too much. I appreciate it. I mean, I know so many great players that have never won a Super Bowl, so many players who are in the Hall of Fame that came so close but didn't quite win. And so I don't take that for granted for a second. Anybody that can, remember it, because I'm Christian's dad and Luke's dad now. They don't even – you guys weren't born when I was playing, right? So the fact that they even remember the game and appreciate anything that I ever had to do with the team means a lot to me. I don't take it for granted. So if it means talking about it in the vegetable section of the grocery store or answering a couple questions, at the UPS or the post office while I'm waiting in line to mail a letter, it's always fun for me.
Yeah.
I don't get sick of it. Matter of fact, I went out and tailgated with some Denver Broncos fans right before the Chiefs games this year, and I've never been able to do that. Like, as a player, you'd sign autographs forever. I'm older now, not everyone even recognizes me, but I brought my mustard product that I have, and I was sharing it with people at the tailgate, and we were high-fiving and trading stories, and it was an absolute blast. I had so much fun doing it.
So you played for the Giants and the Broncos, so you've had your fair share playing at Philadelphia and at Kansas City. What can you tell me about those two sites of these two teams that are playing the Super Bowl, and how those environments stack up to maybe the rest of the hardest places to play in the league?
Yeah, I thought I was going to play for the Giants forever. I was there 3 years, but I ended up going through 3 coaches in 3 years. The last one decided that he didn't need me on the team, and I got cut. But I love New York, and I thought I was going to be there forever. Lisa worked in Manhattan, and she'd take the bus and change her shoes to walk to work and take the bus back and go through the Lincoln Tunnel, and we started going to Broadway plays in the off-season. We had such a blast living there, and it's the Big Apple, man. It's a big city. Technically, the stadium's in New Jersey, so we were living in Secaucus, New Jersey, which is not exactly Manhattan. But it was a really fun experience. I just saw Lawrence Taylor behind me, right? That's one of my teammates. He's still intimidating. I look at him, I'm like, hey, he looks like he could still sack a quarterback.
Yeah, my jaw dropped when I saw that.
Do you see him walk by? But, I mean, I got to play with some of the greatest players in the world. That team just won a Super Bowl. They just beat the Buffalo Bills, and it was Lawrence Taylor and Phil Simms and Carl Banks and right on down the line. Bill Belichick had been the defensive coordinator. Parcells was the head coach. So I went right out of college to a team that was the oldest team in the league. I think I was 21, and their average age was 33. So you're playing with older people that are already legends that were going to the Hall of Fame. So it was a fun experience until I got cut. Then I went out to San Francisco and played with a team that expected to win a Super Bowl. They had won 4 already. They had Steve Young and Jerry Rice and John Taylor. We had 14 Pro Bowlers on our team, just an incredible group of people. And I learned, how to practice the right way. I copied a lot of Jerry's route stems to try to add it to my game to become better, and that was a lot of fun. And then, in Denver, it was a blast as well. So,
you mentioned playing on a team that expects to win a Super Bowl. It feels like that's kind of the feeling around both of the teams here this week in Kansas City and Philadelphia, and they have very business-like attitudes about it in Kansas City. If you've won 2 in a row, that can basically only be the expectation What's it like to play on a team where those are the expectations as opposed to a team that really doesn't know what to expect going into a year?
It's frustrating to play for a team that doesn't have the goal to win a Super Bowl. You feel like you lost before you got started. You really do. So there's never been a team that I've ever played for that didn't have the goal of winning a Super Bowl. In New York, right, they just won the Super Bowl, so of course they expect to win again. It didn't happen, but that was the expectation. We had, when I went to San Francisco, Joe Montana had left to go play for the Chiefs. Steve Young hadn't won a Super Bowl yet. He's the most energetic guy on the planet, by the way, so his energy was palpable. I'm like, this guy is dead serious. Like, I better hold up my end of the bargain because these guys are serious about winning a Super Bowl. So it motivates everyone on the team to be better. And then in Denver, the whole story, John Elway was already a Hall of Famer, and the story had been that he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time but couldn't win the big one.
Yeah.
So there was that, right? Like, hey, Pat Bolin held up the Lombardi Trophy and said, this one's for John. So everybody on the team knew this is serious. This is personal. Like, you better hold up your end of the bargain.
Yeah.
But that's where I want to be. That's why I went to try out for the 49ers to begin with, which led to my time in Denver. I want to be around those guys. Who wants to play for second place? You're either playing to win a Super Bowl or what's the purpose?
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that one of the moments, if not the moment, that you remember every day from your career was being in the backfield when Elway took the knee. So in that moment, what was the first memory, the first thought that popped into your head among the million, right? Because you mentioned the emotions are all over the place after you win a Super Bowl. What were you thinking in that moment?
Well, that play is frozen in time because it seemed like it took an eternity. So if you understand what the victory formation is, and I don't assume everyone knows what that is, but two people line up next to the quarterback, one lines up behind the quarterback. The reason you line up behind the quarterback is just in case, because this has happened, the nose tackle or nose guard times the snap perfectly and hits it, and it goes bobbling around. There is an opportunity for the defense to pick it up and score, right? So you're in a victory formation. It's not just it's to end the game, but there is this slim possibility, even if it's 1 in a million, that if they hit the ball when it's snapped, it could fly around, and it's my job to fall on it. So that's a pretty stressful position to be in. Like, it's unlikely it'll happen, but it could happen. So I'm looking at the football. I'm like glancing at the clock, looking at the football, glancing at the clock, and just hoping he hurries up and snaps it and nothing crazy happens and John takes a knee. But I could literally remember the numbers on the clock pixelating slowly. Like, that's how slow the numbers were changing for me because I was so dialed in. And then once John did take the knee, I realized this game is over. He took the knee. The game's over. He turns around and just every emotion in the planet was showing up on his face. And my first thought was, I'm going to pick him up over my head and carry John off the field. And then I remembered I had popped my Bursa sac 2 weeks before in our championship game, and I had it drained like 3 times, and I wasn't even sure I was going to be able to play in the Super Bowl. And I thought, what if I picked John Elway up and dropped him? That would not be good. So I went to, and I'm like, no, I better not. And then I just dapped him up. And then after that, I just ran to find my family. And back then, they let him run on the field under all the confetti, and we all got to celebrate. And it was such an incredible moment.
Here with Ed McCaffrey talking about his Super Bowl championships, and you mentioned a lot of people now know you for being the dad of Christian and Luke. And what a year for Luke and the Commanders. Obviously, not really sure what to expect from them this season. His first year there in Washington, and they came up just 1 game short of getting here to the Super Bowl. What impressed you most about the performance that Washington put on this year?
Yeah, they had such an incredible season. Nobody was giving them any credit. The so-called experts predicted they'd win 4 to 6 games. New head coach. They just got a new owner a couple of years ago. New quarterback. Low expectations. They had alienated a lot of their fan base based on what had transpired several years before Dan Quinn became head coach. But I don't think people give enough credit to owners sometimes in the NFL. Josh Harris came in and changed that organization. He was willing to make investments in the team, in the coaching staff, in the community, and he did an incredible thing by hiring Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn is an experienced head coach. He's been to a Super Bowl. Everybody that I asked that's played for him absolutely loves the guy. There was a brotherhood in that locker room. You use that word all the time. These guys, excuse me, really bought in to what he was saying, and they became a team that played for each other. And so Dan Quinn brought some great coordinators in, and then after you got your ownership in place, you have your head coach in place. You have to hit on a quarterback.
Yep.
it is so hard to win in the NFL if you don't have an elite quarterback. And they hit a grand slam with Jaden
got it
Daniels.
right.
They hit a grand slam. He was even better than advertised. Like, I knew he was good. He threw over 50 touchdowns, ran for another 8 to 10 in college.
In the SEC.
Won the Heisman. Yeah, so it's not like, where did he come from? It's like, yeah, he's the best quarterback coming out of college, but this is the NFL. You never know till he gets in a game. And that first game against Tampa Bay, we lost on the road to Baker Mayfield and a really good Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. And I could see him calculating the speed of the defense, getting used to his players. You know, you could tell he was very athletic because he was making plays with his feet. But he protected the football, which is a trait that's hard for a lot of young quarterbacks to do. They misjudge the speed of the defense. They misjudge how quickly defenders anticipate. They're getting used to the pass rush, how to maneuver in the pocket. And you could tell it was his first game, and he was kind of getting used to his teammates and the guys around him and his opponent. But each and every week he got better, and then in that Cincinnati game he just unloaded. He had one of his best games of the year. Threw that game-winning touchdown to Terry McLaurin, showed he could throw not only the deep ball but accurately over the middle of the field, and he just got better and better and better. And the game against Detroit was like the exclamation point, beating the number one team in the league that's incredibly talented and making play after play after play and converting fourth downs with his arm, with his legs. Unfortunately, they slipped up a little bit in the NFC Championship. The team itself had a couple too many turnovers. It's tough to win when you turn the football over. But one thing for sure is they hit it right with the quarterback. And they also, I think they have way more talent than what people gave them credit for. I mean, you got guys like Bobby Wagner on defense. You got Austin Eckler on offense. And you forget, those guys were Pro Bowl guys, right? I mean, they did have a lot of talent. But without the quarterback, they don't get as far as they did. So I'm excited already for next year.
Ed,
One more week and we start again.
Ed, you were nice enough to bring by some McCaffrey protein bites.
So, oh my gosh.
I was.
So we got to do a taste test here on C89.
I was nervous for two reasons.
Okay.
One, you guys are from Syracuse. You're intimidating. And two, this is a real live taste test.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you what. So far, we've gotten thumbs up from all of my kids. I did test it with the younger generation here, but this is going to be key.
So if I have a pack of these, will I look like Christian?
That in about 6 to 7 hours of hitting the weights and working out on the field, you will have a chance to look like him.
Only 6 hours? Only 6 hours in the gym and he's there?
You still will not play like him, but you could look more like him.
Nobody has ever played like him.
You could look more like him.
We have two flavors of the McCaffrey protein bites.
Which one's better, Ed?
Sustainably made.
They're both good. Birthday cake is a little bit sweeter right out of the bag. Chocolate chip cookie dough seems to be the favorite. We also have fudge brownie. I like that one better when it's warmed up a little bit.
Ooh.
But the goal was to come up with a gluten-free, I've actually become a little gluten intolerant, but a gluten-free, sustainably made, low-calorie, no GMO snack that had protein. Most people don't get enough protein. You guys are young though. You could probably eat a cheesesteak in the middle of the day and feel fine, right? So it's not to replace breakfast, lunch, or dinner, but you should really eat 5 to 6 meals a day. It's hard, like if you're in class and you want a little energy, or you're after the gym and you're feeling a little low, it's just a really healthy snack option. But the one thing I found out about healthy snack options, they taste horrific. Most of them, right?
But not the McCaffrey protein bites.
These are delicious.
Well,
I think they're delicious.
We'll
I made them for myself because I think they're delicious.
So this started with you. This started with you DIYing it in the kitchen? You just said
no. I went so I have a line of mustard and horseradish sauces as well, and we've been selling those since the 90s. And what I did was I went and met with manufacturers. I met with a family that had 100 years of mustard makers, and generationally they'd made mustard for many, many years, and we came up with recipes in their factory to produce our mustards and horseradishes. So I did the same thing. I'm looking for people that are better at making products than what I am at making products.
We could have used some of your mustard. Our friends over at the Lambeau Field gave us some bratwurst the other day.
Oh, it'll make the bratwurst taste better.
Yeah,
so
could have used some.
I'm going to bring you that too, but mustards have been selling for over 25 years.
That was great.
These
I liked it.
We just launched this week. But so far.
So you eat 6 meals a day?
Yeah, that caught me really off guard. I made a face. 6 meals a day?
Yes.
Are they? But they can't be like these
3 meals, 3 snacks. No, but really you should eat every 2 to 4 hours all day that you're awake. And
I'm already doing it.
You shouldn't. If you go more than 4 hours.
Got that on lock.
Well, the meal you eat matters too. But you should really, like, every 2 to 4 hours, spread your meals out. You don't want to eat, saturated fats, but you should have a really good breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's where you're going to eat hopefully lean meats and proteins and vegetables. But if you're vegan, these are perfect for you. But it's the other 3 times a day where you don't want to eat a full meal, but you should consume some calories. If you go too long, as you guys probably know, you go too long without eating, your body starts to burn muscle and convert more of your energy into fat. So it's actually unhealthy to go too long without eating.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't your body kind of shut down and go into this mode of like, okay, I need to start preserving fat, and then it ends up being not great for you?
100%.
Okay.
You're absolutely correct. And so when I was playing in the NFL, I was on a very strict diet. I gain weight easily. I get really big, just have family of big people. And so I played receiver. They kept trying to make me a tight end, right? And I don't blame them.
You were good at blocking.
I was 6'5", 238 in high school, so that's the size of a tight end. They didn't have as many pass-catching tight ends back then. They were mostly blockers, and I'm like, I really don't feel like blocking a DN all day. I'd rather line up outside and catch passes. So I had to eat really healthy, and I was very conscious. I'd record like every gram of protein, carbohydrate, and fat that I ate. I'd record how many ounces of liquid I would drink, and so I was very serious about it. That's actually why I got into mustard and horseradish, because I'm eating turkey sandwiches and non-fat chicken burgers like every day, and I had to find some way to make them taste better, because it gets really old after a while. I wish I had these snacks back in the day.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, they're great.
Ailey, your thoughts?
So are you real? Be honest.
No, really, seriously,
Good?
I love
Good.
protein bars. That's like my go-to
one's
snack,
better?
and these are great. Oh, 100% these.
Thank you.
Because
no,
my
but
problem
which
with protein
flavor
bars
is better?
is that
I'm a chocolate
I
chip
like the
cookie dough
chocolate
guy.
chip.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
I
I-
like
I think
and
the
we need a
chocolate chip
microwave.
cookie dough.
So
All right.
far, everyone seems like
Survey
this the
says
best.
chocolate chip cookie
But-
dough.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do really enjoy these though. Both of them
the
are
only
good.
person I trust Terrence. So if we can get
Terrence.
Terrence
a
is
thumbs
jacked.
up or a thumbs down.
Terrence, producer Terrence.
Can we get a thumbs up or
Which
a thumbs
one?
down?
Which
Is
one?
this like Mikey from Life Cereal?
Right.
If Terrence
Yeah.
likes
Ter-
it.
Terrence
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 likes
likes the
the
cookie
Terrence
dough.
says
Terrence.
thumbs up on the cookie dough.
Yeah, it's Terrence. He likes it. Yes. Yes. Wow,
Needed
that's our
Terrence's
best
stamp of
endorsement to
approval.
date.
All Terrence eats is protein in Celsius. So, yeah.
And then takes a sip of his
Well,
Celsius
good.
to wash it
Selfishly, I made them for myself, but I do get fulfillment
And for Terrence.
out of creating things that other people like. Like, it's hard to find healthy food that tastes good.
down.
It really is.
And my thing with protein bars is they have this really weird texture, and they're really grainy almost. And these aren't like that at all. Like it just tasted like I was eating
A cookie dough.
Well,
Yeah.
there's
You've got
There's
some
a
good
million-
NFL athletes that can sponsor them. I know
yeah.
of two.
I know of a couple that are on the back of the bag.
Yeah, Luke and Christian have got to get these going.
Yeah, no, I'm going to give them to them, and they do make
Fantastic.
great snacks. Like athletes, it's hard for them to eat. Like
Yeah.
think about it, they have a pregame meal, and then they don't
Especially-
eat for hours before the game.
right.
But you want to consume some calories 20 minutes before the game, so they do some liquid diets. But then at halftime, like how about this Super Bowl, 3.5 hour, 4 hour game,
Yeah.
and you didn't eat anything since your pregame meal, like you're going to get anemic and hypoglycemic,
Right.
and you're going to run out of energy. You're going to bonk. You can't afford to do that when you're playing in the Super Bowl. So having some healthy, easily digestible snacks like at halftime or during the game makes sense. I actually saw Jerry Rice eat a hot dog one time. Because he's hungry, and he's like, I got to eat something. He ate a hot dog at halftime and then caught like some record-setting catch,
Right.
touchdown catch against the Raiders. And but it made me realize, look, you do need to eat something. These NFL guys, you can't go that long without eating any food. And I know their
Right.
stomach gets upset and they get nerves,
Right.
but you have to eat something. But you can't eat things that are going to upset your stomach. So that was one of the main reasons I came up with this for youth athletes, high school athletes, college
I
athletes.
was going to say for college athletes,
Right.
this would be great. Just throw this in your bag, and then you can snack on these all day because they have classes to work around and practices and everything. You can't show up to practice on an empty stomach. So being able to snack
Ailey's
on some
gonna
of
be
these
a
in class.
spokesperson.
Right.
I'll bring
Protein
this to
bars too.
Syracuse.
You brought up some of the really good features about it because you mentioned eating the bars, and I've eaten the bars too. And sometimes you don't want to eat the whole bar,
Right.
or you're in a rush.
Right.
So what do? You wrap it up. You like put it in your pocket or
Right.
put it away. It gets like lint on it or something.
And this has a resealable thing at the top.
You are hired.
You have thought
my
this through.
You are hired.
What is
That's
going
exactly
on?
why
You
we
guys have a
did the
meeting
bites.
before this?
She's a runner, too, by the way. She'll probably run a marathon. She'll
Yeah.
probably have one every mile.
Wait, this is perfect. Yeah, I'll just keep these in my pocket of my jacket when I'm running, and then at mile 6,
mean,
I'll take a couple. Then
Goodness,
when they're in
Ailey,
that
you're doing a
perfect.
good
Going
job
on.
selling
You
yourself.
mile 10, I'll
us.
take another one.
Going
Perfect.
on.
I think
Get
we have a
us.
deal.
Thank you.
Awesome,
Deal.
great. We shook on it. It's
That is
solidified.
awesome.
Ed, before we let you go, fantastic protein bites you brought by. Next guest on the show is going to be Donovan McNabb. Do you have a question you'd like to submit for Donovan McNabb?
Oh, I'd like to get his take on this game. Who does he think is going to win
Yeah.
the game and why? And maybe get his input on Jalen Hurts and what he thinks of him as a quarterback. One of the big questions is, will they be able to pass the ball effectively and win the game if they have to? That's probably what I would ask him.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
we'll do just that.
Good. Let me know what he
We'll let
says.
you know.
Yeah,
We'll let
we
you
will.
know.
And if he
We
doesn't
will.
like the question, we'll say it came from you.
Oh, great.
And if he does, it came straight from us.
Deal. That's fair enough. No, I know he's a great guy. I've interviewed him before.
Yeah.
He's a good guy to have on the show.
Awesome. Well, this
Thank
has been
you.
great, Ed. Thanks
Really
for stopping
appreciate.
by.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I look forward to watching you guys for many, many years.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.